Actually, let me make a
We're live, by the way, so be careful what you say.
that's it live. I was gonna get some more coffee, but that's fine.
No, you go ahead. You go get that coffee. We're live, but
All
grab
right,
grab that coffee, and we will begin when you get back.
maybe I'll grab a beer too.
You can have that too. Well, we're here, just waiting for Jabba to get back with his drink, and then we're gonna do this. I will explain how we're gonna do it. It's pretty straightforward. I only have 3 tabs open, one of which is this tab, the streaming tab. We're here, guys, just waiting on Java to come back. Hey
Hey,
PK, hey Finch, hey Alum, thanks for coming along, guys. Like I said, somebody should link this in a minute. There we go. Somebody linked it, and hey Zakaru, and I'll show you guys what's up.
all right, I'm back.
Welcome. Alright, guys, here's what we're going to do. I'm here with Jabba. This is the live stream pairing reveal for the Permasand Invitational Round 1. I'm doing this in a very visually easy, primitive way. I got 3 tabs open, one of which is Discord, one of which is this to do the streaming, and one of which is this random number generator. The other thing that I have is this. I assigned each player, it's just in alphabetical order, a number 1 through 32. So the way that we're going to do this, it's basically like pulling names from a hat, but we're doing it online as opposed to a physical hat, obviously. So I'm just going to pull 1 through 32. Hey, it's number whatever, 15 against number 24. Hey, there's a pairing. Jabba and I will talk about them, and we'll move on to the next pairing. Now, because this is all happening live, there's no script here. We don't know who's going to be against who. All the reactions are just going to be spur of the moment and spontaneous, and obviously we're going to know a little bit more about certain pairings than others, but we're going to do our best. And I do want to emphasize that even though this is the first time I've ever drawn pairings live on stream for any of the tournaments that I've hosted before, all my pairings in all these tournaments are always random. I just usually do it beforehand on my own time and give myself a little heads up so I can talk about them or whatever. But we're doing it live this time. So yeah, that's pretty much it. It's not all that exciting. You guys in the Discord channel are going to be able to predict on the spot because I'm going to write the pairings down as they come, and you'll be able to add your reaction and let us know who you think is going to win the pairing. Okay, so the very first thing that I'm going to do is we're going to see which gen is going to be because we're randomly deciding who's starting with which gen. We don't want every single person to start with, say, ADV. That makes for a boring viewing experience. So we're going to start by figuring out there's going to be five of you starting with one gen, 5 of you starting with another gen, 6 of you starting with another gen. So first thing we're going to do is figure out which gen is going to be the 6, 3 through 5 as you see on screen, and generate. And the winner is Gen 5. So the first 6 pairings here are going to start with black-white. Get that ready here. So, ready, Java?
I am certainly ready.
All right, pull it right now. So we have 1 through 32. The first pairing is number 26 against number 32. What do we have here? Tricking versus Zomog is the first pairing that we pulled. All right, while I fill that in, Jabba, why don't you tell us about that?
That's a pretty solid pairing. Zomog's been a staple uh, of Cal's Invitational. Oh, I don't know if he's been a staple. You would know better than I. He played this year, right?
Past 2.
Past 2 years. Okay, that's a staple because we've only had two with you back from exile in the mountains. Tricking put up a good showing in the most recent classic. I'm going to reference this a lot just because it seemed to be a really good indicator of how people did in Callus Invitational, which I found pretty surprising. You know, you saw really good runs from Mana, especially. Tamahone had a really good showing. Roro did well, so you know the that seems to kind of hold true, and so you know I'm going to be referencing this in a lot to kind of see how people are doing for us lately. And you know, so Tricking put up a really good showing in that. So you know, this trends to be a pretty good first matchup we got hit with.
I would give I would give Tricking the edge in the series. I would say that of the three here, Zomog's best tier is ADV, which also happens to probably be Tricking's best tier, so that's kind of a rough break. And then I would imagine that Tricking has a little bit of an edge in both DPP and Black White. For me, Zomog's Black White is a bit of a, or sorry, Zomog's DPP is a bit of a mystery. I don't know how much he plays it or how good he is at it, so like maybe I'm a little bit unintentionally biased against him in that regard, where I just don't in any way associate him with being a DPP player. Maybe he's better at it than I'm aware of, but I have seen Tricking play all three of these tiers, and I know for at least ADV and Black White, he's pretty solid. Again, Tricking's DPP, I'm not as sure, but I've seen him play it more than I've seen Zomog play it. I think Zomog's key to victory here is winning the ADV game. I think if he can do that, he's got a decent shot. But overall, I would say they're probably comparable. Maybe Tricking's even better at ADV, and I'm more comfortable with Tricking in both of the other tiers. So I'm going to say that Tricking wins the set.
That's going to be interesting to see how these pairings play out with people's strongest versus weakest. I think what you point out immediately is something we're going to have to look out for. You're going to see situations where people's best tier are the same. I think that's the matchup you don't want. I think you want a matchup where your worst is their best and their best is your worst or whatever, and then you know you try to leverage a little bit of an edge in that third tier.
Alrighty, it is time for the. I gotta fix that real quick. I will fix that in between pairings. I don't want to delay the show here. The next pairing is number 25 versus number 19. Who's that? Uh,
Roro versus Tony.
Tony versus Roro. Alrighty. Get that one down. Go ahead and, while I do this administrative bullshit, start us off.
Well, this is a huge one. I think this is a probably a matchup that neither of these players really want to see. Both put up pretty good showings in the most recent classic. Roro obviously had a really good showing in Callus Invitational, so his advanced game is I mean his everything game is really good right now. This is just a first round heater right now. I feel bad. I kind of feel bad for both players that they stumble into this first round. I think it's going to be great. I'm really looking forward to seeing it. I don't know which tiers I would say are each player's strongest, but I think Roro definitely has the advanced advantage right now. So that could give him a leg up in the series overall, but it's going to be a close one either way.
This is a tough pairing, like you said. I think that Tony, as a player, is underrated and maybe underappreciated because he's so good at managing and he was a TD for a long time, so he contributes to the community in a lot of ways other than being a good player. It's hard to pick him against Roro. I certainly can't. I think that Roro does have the advantage here, of course, as he would against almost everybody in this field in this format, since these are probably Roro's three best gens, unless you want to start arguing about GSC, but he's very strong in these gens. I think where Tony has the best shot in this is DPP. Not that Roro's bad there by any means, but I don't think Roro is as good at DPP as he is at ADV and Black White, whereas I think of the three, DPP is Tony's strongest. So I think that for Tony to win, he needs to win the DPP game, period. There's no way if he loses the DPP, he's beating Roro in both ADV and Black White. So he needs to win the DPP game, and then he needs to just find a way in one of the other two. I'm going to give the advantage to Roro, obviously, but I think Tony wouldn't necessarily need a miracle to take this down. Nope. Just going to communicate that I fixed the issue. So Hero can help us out. That'll make my life a lot easier. Next pairing. Next pairing is number 4 and number 28. Blightbringer versus Watashi, also known as FLCL.
Oh, FLC. Okay, I was wondering because I didn't recognize that name. Maybe I need to keep up up to date on people's alts. I definitely know FLCL though, so that's good. I was like, am I so out of it that I don't know this player right here? Uh, yeah, it's a solid pairing. I mean, obviously, I'm going to probably say that every single pairing. This was a solid pairing. like there's any players in this field that are terrible, except maybe 13 on your list. Um, this one, I don't know much about what they're bringing to the table other than they're just generically good in all three. So that should be a fun one.
I would think that the ADV game probably decides this. I would think that it's hard to argue that FLCL has the advantage in Black White, which I perceive to be his strongest tier out of these three, and probably Blight's weakest tier. A lot of people do not know because Blight has been around a long time and is very versatile, but Blight actually back in the day was a DPP main. You might know that. He played it back in the net battle era, and he used to play it a ton.
Did you say he played DPP in the net battle era?
Or whatever it was, Shoddy, back in the day,
Here we go, Scotty Battle.
10 years ago. But anyway, uh, I don't know how relevant that is today, but Blight is actually, or was at one point, very familiar with DPP. I would.
Believe it or not, the metagame has not changed that much. It's kind of crazy. I watch games today. I'm like, this looks like a game from, like you said, like 10 years ago. A Zelf lead offense. There you go. That's all you. If you can do that consistently, I think you're going to have a good showing in this tournament.
So yeah, I'd say that Watashi has the black-white advantage here. I think the DPP is close, but I think I give it to Blightbringer, and I think probably the ADV game decides it. And I think in ADV, these players are comparable. So for me, out of the three pairings that we've had so far, this is probably the closest one. Like, I think Tricking has a clear advantage over Zom, and I think Roro has a clear advantage over Tony. Blightbringer versus FLCL, I think, can go either way. Like I said, I think the ADV game decides it. I think Blight probably wins DPP, and FLCL probably wins Black White. The ADV, I'm not so sure. We did have FLCL in the Callus Invitational Forward play-ins. He was invited. He initially expressed interest, but then just for whatever reason decided he didn't want to, so we didn't actually get to see where he stands right now for ADV. But I have seen him play it a number of times. He is solid. I've seen him beat guys like Ojama. He could play. So I think that's going to be a good set. I'm looking forward specifically to seeing the ADV game between these two. Next pairing. Number 12. What's your number, Java? 13. Okay.
13,
Keep
yeah.
an eye out for lucky 13. 12 is
Yeah.
Finch, starting with black white, because of course, right? He wants stars, so he's hoping I pull 22 here. It's going to be Finch versus number 9. Oh boy, those two are friends. Finch versus Eternal Spirit. That's a crappy pairing. Those guys are buds. I know they do not want to play against each other round one. That's an unfortunate pull, but that's how random goes sometimes.
Sometimes if you're trying to climb the mountain, you just got to dunk on your friends. That's how it works. I know, and maybe you can give a bit of insight into this here because I know there are going to be there's some questions about some of the choices. I know you were an Eternal Spirit stan into this, right? You
Yeah,
which one?
ABR went so far as to say that Eternal Spirit is the worst player in this tournament and the first guy that he would cut, which I
That makes
vehem-
me feel a lot better. Makes
I
me second.
I vehemently disagree. There's at least half a dozen guys that I think Eternal Spirit in this tour is better than. and he does play all these old gens and is good at them. That being said, this is a really rough pairing. When it comes to
Yeah, come on,
these,
Finch, yeah,
when it comes to these three tiers, Finch has got to be one of the top. I don't know, 10, half dozen guys in this
yeah.
tour.
I would tighten it up a little bit. I'd probably put it like maybe in this pairing or this list. Maybe I might put him at like five
Yeah,
for
no,
3, 4, 5.
Finch is one of the favorites. This is a rough pairing for Gamma for sure. I think that the ADV Eternal Spirit has a decent shot. I think that of the three is clearly the weakest for Finch. Not to say that he's weak there by any means, but it's his weakest of the three. Whereas it might be Gamma's strongest. Either that or the Black White. Obviously, Eternal Spirit is not better than Finch at Black White, but he can give him a game. I don't think it's a miracle for Eternal Spirit to steal a Black White game off Finch. And then DPP is kind of matchup based.
Yeah,
So, I mean,
they call it the variance tier for a while for a reason.
yeah, I mean, I'm going to give Finch the edge. Obviously, it's hard not to. We're looking at like one of the probably bottom 10 in the pool versus one of the top 10. But this match so far has the biggest potential of any for an upset. I think that if Eternal Spirit wins the ADV, it's not too wild that he can just get there in one of the other two. I'll give the edge to Finch, but I don't think this is a lock. This is a shoe in the way some of you guys may think. I would not be shocked if Eternal Spirit pulls the upset here.
It would definitely do a lot for your ego if he had a good run, and then you get to pull the good old "told you so."
Yeah, I defended Gamma, and I think he belongs in this tour. I mean, I'm not going to name specific names, but like I said, off the top of my head, there's at least half a dozen guys in this tour that I think Eternal Spirit is better than in these formats. Again, this is a pairing that maybe doesn't lend too well for my cheering on Gamma. This is probably a Finchinator win, but like I said, I think Eternal Spirit has a shot here. Just he's one of those guys that's just good at every tier that he plays, like Star Master and other guys like that. He'll give Finch a battle for sure. Alrighty, and on to the next pairing. We have number 13. Hey, I know that
Oh
number.
shit, it's happening.
That would be
Who am I getting?
Jabba the Griffin. Oh man, I wanted to pull you much later in this, but I guess we'll get it out of the way early. Jabba the Griffin, number 13, versus 25. Nope, that's Tony. We already got him. Let's try again. 21. Oh, oh, no
Fuck
problem.
you.
You're against the classic champion. That's no problem. He sucks.
Fuck you, dude. It's
Oh,
some
that's
bullshit.
easy peasy.
Oh, god damn it, ass.
So,
This
what do you
is
think about
not,
that pairing, Jabba?
and we're starting in definitely my worst, which is some bullshit. Once you drop this, I'm going to pairings and predictions. Let's get the Soul Wind out there. So there we go. Predict Soul Wind.
Why
Um,
is Solon good at Black White?
I've heard rumors.
Does he play Black White? He might.
Yeah, this is probably one of the worst pairings I could have personally pulled. And I was thinking, I'm definitely going to need a warm up round. Well, not a warm up round, but just something to get myself a little more acclimated to playing seriously. Uh, which I've had a couple games recently that I've borderline, but going all in, it's been a while. So to land Solwyn, I mean, there's so many players in this tournament. I definitely would not have wanted to land. He's probably like 5 or 6, and he's one of them. It's unfortunate, but I think I'm gonna surprise people. Obviously, everyone's like, Jabba, why the hell's Jabba in here? He's a washed up old coot, and they're correct in every single word of that. But I 3, 4, 5 used to, and it's kind of like why not just wait for the next Cal's Invitational, see if you can leverage that in. You've been playing a lot of advanced. I've always preferred 3, 4, 5 for DPP. Was always my favorite generation. It suits my offensive sensibilities a little bit better than 3 does. It's a lot harder to run into just say a melodic that you can't break, which isn't fun for some of the teams I build. Where I build them weird, and they might get hard stopped by something specific. So I just click let's play, and if the person has it, the game's over. So I've always been more of a four guy. Someone's going to crush me in black and white probably. Even if I get as good as I used to, I think at our peaks, I think Solwind is still a better Gen 5 player than I ever was. Three should be really good, and then four, I think it's going to come down to four.
Yeah, you pretty much you analyzed it pretty much the same way that I was going to. I think that I mean there's no locks in Pokemon, especially in Best of One, but the black white is as close to a lock as you're gonna get. I can't imagine that you win that. The ADV though, I mean, again, depending on how in form and practice you are, ADV I think is Solwyn's weakest out of these three, and it's probably your strongest. So I think you actually might have an edge there. Certainly a chance. Solwyn's no slouch, but you can get him there. It's a coin flip at worst. It might even favor you. So I think the X factor here is going to be the DPP. Solwind obviously has played that in recent times in Classic and has done well. How much DPP you play these days and where you are, I guess we'll all see. But
Right.
I think you're probably going to lose the black white, and I think you're going to need to win the other two. But you've got a shot to do it. Giving an honest
I'll just
prediction, obviously I predict Solwyn to win the set, but you've got a shot.
yeah, that's safe. Thanks for giving me a shot, buddy. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, ADV and DPP, I think you are coin flippy in those. I think you've got a shot.
Should be fun though.
Didn't you play Solwind in round one of that other tour, the Tournament of Superstars?
Yeah, I beat him.
Yeah,
Uh,
and
DPP,
didn't you sweep him?
yeah, DPP, and GSC.
Yeah,
I
so
think.
it's slightly different tiers, but for those of you who do not know, Java swept Solwyn in a best of five in round one of a different tour, so do not
And then I
underestimate the legendary trainer Orange,
and then I got revert. I got swept the next round in the same fashion, pretty much by Cyber. So
who's also in this tour.
yeah, so that was a pretty much a flash in the pan, and I'm sure Solwyn wasn't trying. I mean, neither was I. I think either you or Sprinkles were giving me teams, and I just loaded them up. But you know, it at least shows I can manage a DPP team if need be.
All right, so this next pairing is the final pairing that's going to be starting with Black White. Then we're going to move on to starting with ADV and starting with DPP. But this last one is the final starting with Black White pairing.
I thought it was 556.
We pulled the one was six first,
Oh, okay.
which
I
is the
got you.
Black White.
All right.
All right, let's generate some numbers. Let's generate number 24, TDK against 16 against Male. Interesting.
Yeah, one of the late editions. Though I remember the early rumblings. I think when the list was announced, him and the next one on the list actually Malekith were kind of the two big. What about these guys? You should put these guys in. These guys should have been on the list. So we obviously went through the unfortunate circumstances that required the switch, but these two guys and specifically Male, who we're talking about right now, were the first name out of people's lists or out of their mouths for who should be in. So obviously not a weak addition just because they came later. And so TDK obviously a good player across the board. So this should be a good one. As they're all going to say, it should all be good ones. But this one specifically, don't get caught off guard by the fact that one is a late addition.
I view this pairing as similar to Blightbringer and FLCL. I think this is one of the closer ones, less like a tricking Zomog and Aurora Tony, closer to a Blightbringer FLCL. I could see this one going either way. I think these guys are relatively close and evenly matched. I would say that I would give the black-white advantage to Male probably out of these two, but I think all three tiers are close. But I mean, just following my formula of going tier by tier, what do I want to do? I would give the black-white advantage slightly to Male. I would give the DPP advantage slightly to TDK, and I think that the ADV, they're about as comparable can get. I could see it going either way. I mean, I've seen Male lose to complete donkeys in tournaments, and I've also seen him beat BKC in tournaments and beat some other guys. I mean, the dude can definitely play. This is a really tough one. This is the closest pairing yet, in my opinion. I don't feel super comfortable or confident either way picking a winner. But when it comes to old gens, I'm simply going to pick the player that I think has the higher ceiling, which I think is Male. Specifically with old gens. If it were for SPL, obviously TDK is the more valuable player, but specifically for 3, 4, and 5, I'm going to go with Male. But I don't feel great about it. This is a very close pairing. All right, I will get my boy set up so he can do this. Round 1 starting ADV. And we'll see what we get. Time to pull some more pairings. Starting with good old Gen 3, both of our bread and butter. We have number 8, Eden. Perfect. Starting a little
Eden.
ADV for Eden.
Yeah. Right.
Versus 13. Nope, that's you. Versus 30. Eden versus X-Ray. All right.
Okay.
Oh, Hero didn't notice that I already put the ADV thing. What a donkey. And he puts it lowercase. I'm going to fight him. I'm going to fucking fight him. He's fired. Anyway, I'll kill him, but
Uh,
go ahead.
um, I think this is actually an interesting matchup. And correct me if I'm wrong. From what I know about X-Ray, I think he trends maybe five. Would you agree with that? That he's the better five player here. Eden's the better three player. So maybe we're looking at another match in the middle with DPP.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Eden's another one that I had to fight for to be in here. He stands out to a lot of people as what the fuck? This is the weakest guy in the tour. What is he doing here? Again, I vehemently disagree.
Why do they say that? Is it because it's 4-5? They don't really have.
Yeah, I think it's two things. I think it's because he just has not and does not do well in SPL, so people think that he blows. And is there something to that more than zero? Sure, but at the same time, SPL is not the be all end all. It's one tour. There's other reasons. There's other circumstances. I don't know that it necessarily means anything for this tour. Eden inside tours almost always does well, sometimes really well. Right now he's like 5 or 6-1 in GSC in World Cup of Pokemon Perfect. I've seen him go 6-1 in ADV inside tours. I believe he has a positive record in DPP in POCL. I mean, granted, is this tour harder than those tours? Yes. Are people going to try more? Yes, but Eden does regularly play these tiers and does know quite a bit about them. And I think overall he's underrated. He has some temperament issues, but I am telling you, man, his ceiling is high. I really am an Eden believer. I agree
I've,
with your overall assessment.
I've
Blackwater,
played him in advanced pretty recently. He seems to be on top of his game in
yeah,
advance.
Eden should win the ADV here. I mean, X-Ray plays all three of these tiers, but Eden's strongest one is ADV, and X-Ray's weakest one is ADV. You've got to think Eden has the edge there. And then the other two are close enough to where I think Eden is going to find a way to win one of them. X-Ray is probably a little better in black and white. The DPP is probably comparable. The DPP is probably the X factor here. My prediction would be whoever wins the DPP wins the match. But if I have to pick a winner here, I'm going to say Eden.
I just got a highlight from Solwyn saying to play right now. I don't think so, buddy.
Tell
Next
him,
Sunday it is, my friend.
well, tell him you can play at a half hour. But yeah, you're a busy man right now. What was
No,
your
I,
what was your
I think
prediction here? Eden and X-Ray.
I probably just I don't know. It's tough. It's going to come down to DPP, I think, and I think I think I would lean X-Ray, but I would not be shocked if Eden takes it.
Fair enough. Java and I in disagreement here. I say Eden, he says X ray. I assume most of the community is going to say X ray, so here's another opportunity for me to either be the idiot that I am or go, ha! I knew better. Next pairing 16. Do we have 16? We have male, yeah. How about 15? M Dragon.
M Dragon.
Mariano. He hates when I call him that, so I'm going to keep doing it. Mariano Dragon. Versus number 11. There's a pairing. M Dragon versus Fakes.
Ooh, that's pretty heat,
We're bringing it back to
and it's crazy.
2012.
This is a crazy matchup too because I would say personally, right off the top of my head, I don't know which one is better, Gen 5, but I know Gen 3 and Gen 4, they're both extremely strong players in both of those. So this is just going to be kind of a slugfest where both players are just great across the board, and so no matchup is kind of like a gimme. No, I would say in none of the three gens does anyone have greater than like a 55% chance at best. It could be 50-50 across the board. And so this probably so far is probably my favorite matchup in that it's just going to be an absolute slugfest with both players just going out at it in all three gens.
Talent wise, I think I'm going to give M Dragon the advantage for a.
I would give him a slight. I would go with you there. I think he's a little better, but I mean
Oh, I don't mean for talent.
comparatively, when they're both at the top end,
I don't mean for
you know,
talent. Talent wise, I think they're comparable. I'm going to give M Dragon the advantage for a very simple reason. M Dragon somewhat gives a shit in these tours. Fakes does not. Fakes gives zero fucks. I wouldn't have even invited Fakes if it were up to me. He's here because he's talented, and ABR just wants the best players. Fakes has proven to me time and time again that he just doesn't give a shit. He's going to load up whatever the fuck from 7 years ago that somebody gave him, and he's just going to fucking play. M Dragon might actually prep. Not that M Dragon is notorious for being someone who cares a lot. Sometimes he's no fucks given as well. But I think M Dragon's going to try to some extent, where I think Fakes doesn't care fucking at all. And
okay,
for that reason, I'm going to give it to M Dragon.
that's fair.
But I mean, Fakes is so good to where he can show up and not give a fuck and just win
Yeah,
anyway.
just load up three teams from this team builder. When you've been trying seriously for several years in all these, you have so many teams. You can just and he probably has so much experience playing M Dragon. He just load up three teams. You expect to do well against them. So maybe you don't need to try.
Well, so far, small sample size, but so far, the prediction thread thinks Fakes is going to win. So what the fuck do I know? Guess we'll find out. The next pairing, still in the starting ADV category, we have number 3, Bihi, against 31. Bihi versus Zakaru, a battle of the Frenchmen.
Ooh la la.
They will eat
He's,
escargot as they fight.
ha ha ha.
Oui. Anyway, go ahead.
Uh, I actually don't know. I know Zakaru pretty well. I was on his French squad in one of these weird side tournaments. I actually don't know about any of his skill level outside of ADV. In ADV, I know him as a slow man mixed stall face. But 4-5, I don't know. Buy high, be he, however you want to say it. He's one of the players on this list I'm least well versed in their talents across the board. So you can probably shine more light on that. Obviously, considering those circumstances, I would have to lean my boy Zoc. But you can definitely let us know more about these players.
Well, first of all, have you ever seen Zakaru play GSC?
No, should I?
Well, yeah, he's played it in SPL. He plays it in a bunch of side tours that you participated in. I thought you would have seen him, but
I don't watch GSC matches. I make a point not to.
oh, I can't blame you there. Basically, the point is that and the GSC is the best representation of this, but Zakaru plays stall and only stall in everything. Zakaru shows up to GSC matches with Fori, Umbreon, Tentacruel, Blissey bullshit every game. And that's how he plays every single matter. He's going to play stall in every single tier. Now, Bihi is a DPP main. It is his best tier. He had a very successful SPL, and he's just very consistent at it in general. And speaking bluntly, he is going to put it in Zakaru's bum in DPP. That one's not close. Bihi's going to murder him. So for Zakaru to win the set, it's going to have to be in ADV and black-white. Uh, Bihi claims that he is pretty well versed in ADV. I'm skeptical. I haven't seen it myself. He's a very talented player, but I haven't actually seen him play ADV. But I think that Zakaru has proven himself to me there. I don't think he's an elite ADV player, but I think he's a very solid ADV player. So we'll see how that goes. And then the black-white, I know Bihi plays, and I don't know how good Zakaru is. To me,
I
Zakaru...
mean,
Go ahead.
black white is kind of the ways you can take stall. I think matches up well with Zakaru, his play style. So if you can just find the right stall, maybe that's where it can make the difference.
To me, Zakaru is one of the weaker players in this field, and I respect him. I mean, when I say weaker player in the field, we're talking about someone who rightfully does belong in SPL, and he will again be picked for SPL this year. So no disrespect to Zakaru, who I like a lot, but I think he's near the bottom end of the field. Granted, I don't think Bihi is one of the top 10 in the field either, but I view Bihi as very skilled and someone who is not going to get outplayed when Zakaru busts out his 300 turn stall bullshit. He's not going to get impatient and choke the game. He's an older, veteran, composed player. I just have a hard time with this particular pairing, envisioning the path to victory for Zakaru. I think Bihi can hang with him in a long game. I think Bihi has a free win in the DPP. It's hard for me to imagine Zakaru winning here. I'm going to go with Bihi. Java and I have some disagreement all the way around. That's which is good stuff. Oh, and apparently those two don't get along, so that's even better. We love the French rivalry here as they eat
Yeah, you love to see
escargot.
that.
Okay, two more starting with ADV. The next one is we have number five. Number five, Conflict. I'm excited to see Conflict return to action. Haven't seen him play in months at this point. Conflict against 11. Nope, that's fakes. How about 25?
Nope.
How about 21?
Nope.
28?
Nope.
God damn it, 20.
Yeah, roses.
Perfect. Conflict versus Roses is the next pairing.
That's not a fun one to walk into, I guess, if you're conflict and what you're saying is accurate, that he hasn't really
Well, no. I said I haven't seen him play in months. That doesn't mean he.
okay. But he's been off doing his thing and you just haven't been following him like a good groupie.
Well, I'm not sure one way or another. I don't know if he just hasn't played or if he's been playing in secret, but from what I can tell, he's been very inactive. Like, I invited him to Callis Invitational, same shit. He couldn't give me a definitive answer. Wasn't sure if he'd be around and able to play or not. Didn't get back to me until 6, 7 weeks later. Oh, hey, I haven't been around. Sorry, I missed your message. Good call playing without me. I I don't know, man. I mean, I'm a huge Conflict fanboy, and I always have been. This is just one of the most talented players, just pure natural talent competitive Pokemon has ever seen. I mean, the instincts on this guy.
Correct me if I'm wrong. He kind of can just play everything really well. Like if this tournament included like GSC, he'd be near top of the field in that.
Well,
Just across.
GSC is his overall best tier, but
Yeah,
yes, he's a very versatile,
he's
very
got his
versatile
hands.
player.
He plays everything really well, and obviously Roses coming off a really strong classic showing too. So this could shape up to be one of the better matches.
Yeah, I mean, I think Conflict is the more talented slash higher ceiling player, but I mean, the major X factor here is if you have a player who's been playing a lot and playing well, good classic performance, like you said, Roses, versus a player who possibly hasn't played at all or very minimally for the past 3, 4 months. That's a major X factor. I mean, I want to say conflict because I'm a fanboy, but I mean, I don't know, man. Like to my knowledge, Roses is way more current and way more fresh. I mean,
Yeah, you always got to kind of give the edge to somebody who's been putting up results lately, and I think Classic is just going to be the best bar, just like it was in Callis Invitational for what these players are likely going to do. The runs are going to make. I suspect that the top eight, you're going to see a lot of people that were also in the top 16 of classics. So I think you got to keep an eye out for that.
the thread is going insane here with one-sided conflict predictions, and man, I conflict is like I said, I'm a fanboy. I'm not a fanboy for most Pokemon players, but I'm a big conflict fan. But I'm gonna predict Roses here. I don't think conflict has played Pokemon at all in months, and I don't think he's played serious Pokemon in longer. I Roses plays all the fucking time, and he gives a shit. I just Conflict's a busy dude. He's working on his education. He's working on having a family going. I gotta say Roses, man. Pokemon is one of those "what have you done for me lately" kind of things, and who's the better player historically? Who's the better player in their prime? Conflict. Who's the better player in the last 6 months? I gotta go with Roses. What was your prediction on this?
I'm with you on that one. I think in these sort of tournaments, you definitely got to look. I think recent results, and especially and I keep citing the classic for a reason. It's because it's one of those, just like the Smoke on Tour. It requires several good results over a longer period of time, and it's not just one and done. You can't cite the Smogon tournament for who's the better, OU player. One of the best OU players in the tournament could have gotten knocked out round one. That's some bullshit. That's not the kind of stuff you cite. But I think the classic is definitely a good way to judge, who's good right now. And so I always trend to go that way. Although I do have to say that if I agree with that sort of reasoning, by the transitive property, it would mean that I'm going to get crushed. But that's fine. That's fine.
Alrighty, and the final pairing here to start with ADV, and then everybody after that will start with DPP. Let's pull some numbers. It's going to get harder and harder to pull numbers that we haven't pulled yet. So you let me
We
know, and I
we can always cut down if you want, man. So how many people we got left? We got one, two, three,
too
four,
much
five,
effort.
six,
Get
7,
ready.
8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We got 12 people left. We could just run on 1 through 12.
Shut up. Number 22.
Jesus Christ, star.
18. There you go. I pulled a pairing.
Hey, easy. You didn't need to reset.
Easy peasy. Star
How
versus Pogis.
Pogus. I was about to ask how you
Uh,
are
uh,
supposed to pronounce that one. I actually don't know
uh,
much about Pogus as a
like
player.
I would fucking know how to pronounce these things.
Page, I think is how it's pronounced. I think right off the bat, I mean, Star. Everybody knows that Star is just a really good, consistent player across all three of these gens. Can kind of play everything. So I mean, I don't actually know much about Pogus, so you can do another fill in on where he's at as a player, and see if uh, anything you say maybe contradicts where I'm coming from by just saying that I think Star. I don't think there's a lot of players in this list that I wouldn't take Star over. Maybe he's top half here, 3, 4, 5. I'm just gonna take him. Seems like the safe bet.
I want you to talk for 30 more seconds while I get the spreadsheet all up to date here.
30 more seconds.
So, that's all I need. Kill the time. Tell a joke. Have you heard a good one recently?
Uh, uh, sometimes I just like to go fishing for the halibut.
Wow. Hey, that didn't kill. That didn't kill 30 seconds. I need another 15, maybe.
Um, I don't know. How was your weekend? Do anything fun?
Well, see, that requires me talking. Do you see the problem here?
You can't talk and delete stuff at the same time.
Fucking working on it.
You can't just put me on the spot like this.
No, it's all right. I got it down to the last 10
Ten, right?
to make life much easier. Yeah, I got the last 10. Okay. Yeah, I'm with you. I Pogis is an ABR invite. I would not have invited him, not because I don't respect him or whatever. I don't know him very well. The only thing I really know about Pogis is that he's very good at Oros. Now, I've literally never seen him play 3-4-5. So
Yeah,
I just
Scott is saying, he's consistent in basically every tier he touches. So, that would make it a good matchup if, because that Star's pretty much the same way. So if you're just looking at two players that, no matter what they do, they're really good. I think you're just going to see another, slugfest like the M Dragon matchup where, no player maybe has a crazy advantage in any tiers, but it should all just be good matches, which is good for from a viewer perspective. We want to see. We don't want to. The viewer doesn't want to see one-sided matchups where it comes down to DPP every single time, like we've predicted a lot. They definitely want to see slugfest across the board where every matchup is tight. So from that standpoint, maybe this will be one of the better matchups from a viewer perspective.
my prediction just doesn't mean much because quite literally, out of every single player, out of the full 32-man roster in this tour, Pogis is the player that I know the least about. I don't think I've ever interacted with him in my life, even just for a small thing. Hey, how are you? How are you? I don't think we've ever talked a single time. I just don't know the dude. So I guess if I'm forced to predict, I'll predict Star because, like you said, there's very few people in this tour that I wouldn't predict Star over. But I totally could be wrong. My prediction means little to nothing here because I just don't know his opponent very well. Alrighty, it's time to move on to the pairings starting with DPP. There are only 10 players left, so it's going to make it easier. We're just going to switch over to 1 through 10 here. And we'll get our first starting with DPP pairing, which is number 4. So that is Dice versus number 1. Dice versus Asta.
Wow, that's a really interesting matchup. Um, I've talked to Asta. I think I might be doing some prep with him, maybe this week coming up. I'm not sure. I know obviously it goes without saying that Asta is one of the best advanced players currently in the game. I don't know where you'd want to put him. Top 10 easily, maybe a little above that, depending on how you personally view his talents. Dice, obviously, on the flip side, you'd have to give the nod as one of the best top 10, BW players, if not, once again, a little higher. Um, so, it really depends on, and maybe you can shine a little light on how these players play in the other gens. Um, Dice, I'm not too well versed in his advance. I know he's obviously a good DPP player. And Asta, I just couldn't tell you how he plays DPP or BW. I've never really seen a match of his that was outside advance. So, that'd be interesting if anyone kind of knows where his talent lies. Maybe you do. Maybe you've seen him play and maybe you know. But so from that perspective, I definitely give the initial edge to Dice, but that's really dependent on, how good Asta is at the other gens.
All right, well, let me just switch over to the chat. They'll correct me very quickly if I'm wrong here. Dice, I know won GSC Cup. Did he win Classic outright? I believe that he did. Chat, let me know. Is that correct? Did Dice win Classic?
This not this most recent
No, no,
one.
no, no, no.
Maybe
Not the most recent one, but a few years back. Did Dice win Classic? I thought that he might have, but the chat's going to let me know in a moment. But anyhow, Dice is very, very well versed in these tiers. He plays all of them. Like I said, I think he won Classic. I'm waiting for the chat to either give me a yes or a no on that. Okay, there we go. Dice lost in the finals to Giara. Okay. Yeah, he made the finals of the second Classic but didn't win. Thank you, chat. Yeah, so he went very deep. He made finals of Classic. He I believe, won GSC Cup or went very deep in GSC Cup. He plays all of 1 through 5 at a very high level. Now, the big X factor here, because everybody knows Dice, he's a known commodity, is Asta. A lot of people don't even realize that Asta plays tiers other than 3, and maybe you know that Asta plays GSC. Asta's actually really good at every tier that he plays. He's one of those guys who's just really smart in real life and just really good at Pokemon. He's good at every tier that he plays. The problem with this particular pairing is that it's really hard for me to envision Asta winning this black white under any circumstances. It's Dice's best tier. Dice is like a top like 3 to 5 black white in the world, whereas Asta, even though he is very underrated and unknown at black white and can beat a lot of people in this tour at black white, Dice unfortunately is not one of the people that I think he's going to be able to beat at black white. So that's a rough break for him. The ADV here is comparable. I think Asta is better. I think Dice is really good, but Asta is better. So I'll go ahead and give Asta the edge there. I think if they played 50 ADV games, I think Asta probably wins, say, 30 of them or so. And then the DPP Asta is better than you think, and it's a variance fest. Dice is
Yeah.
probably better, but not by enough to where I feel fantastic about it. I will take Dice to win here because the way that I view the match overall is that he's got a huge edge in black white and he's comparable in the other two. So just mathematically, it makes sense that Dice would win here. But I think that if Asta manages to win the DPP, Asta can steal this set. It doesn't matter if he gets demolished in the black white and he only wins 1-0 in the other two. It all counts the same. Dice has the edge. Asta has a shot. The key here is the DPP game.
I think Blightbringer in chat pretty much said, so he said Dice could conceivably take advance while Asta hasn't got a snowball chance in hell of BW. And I think with that situation, you got to lean Dice because he can sneak an advance win because he's comparable, like you said. And then so on top of that, if he's got an advantage in DPP, the numbers line up. When you start off 1-0 like that in a best of 3 pairing, it's likely you're going to win the entire thing.
Only 8 players left to be paired. Let's do a little crossing off here. Get rid of Asta and Dice. Now there's only 8 people, and one of them is Lax, and he will be against number 3. Lax against Xcal is the next pairing.
X against Xcal. Xcal's, from what I can see from an outsider perspective, someone who hasn't watched these tiers a lot, but I have seen a lot of Xcal matches in some of these random side tours. He seems to play those as much as I do, which I think is kind of funny. He's also had a really good showing in Classic, making the playoffs. He's been looking really good lately. I know, as far as I know, he's a really good VW player. I don't know much about his other tiers. And Lax, I actually don't know a ton about Lax other than I see his name a lot. I know he's really good. So another matchup you're probably gonna have to shine more. But from what I've just seen lately, the matches I've watched lately, Xcal looks really good. And I think he could be someone that could make kind of a surprise run. I'm sure a lot of people probably don't have him near the top of the pairings here. But I think he's been playing really well lately from the matches I've seen, and I think he could make a far run.
These are two of the more well-rounded players. These are not like Finchinator players where there's a clear 1, 2, 3, whereas for Finch it's clearly black-white, then DPP, then ADV. It's less clear with these guys what the pecking order is. Xcal, I would say, is strongest in DPP, so maybe it's DPP, black-white, ADV for him, but I'm not certain. I would think, they're both of these guys are really rounded. They're both solid. Neither one is like a top 5 player in any of the tiers, but they're both solid in all the tiers. It's that kind of pairing. I would think that Xcal has the DPP advantage here. I would say of the 3, that might be Lax's weakest tier, whereas it might be Xcal's strongest tier. So I'd say he has the edge in that matchup. The black-white They're both strong, so the black white very well may be pivotal to deciding the series. I think I would lean toward Lax. Um, I've never seen Lax play in one of these side tours, so what I don't know about him and X Factor is just how much does he give a shit. He's someone who has been in trouble on Smogon before. Not going to get too much into detail on that, but once something like that happens, what does it do to your motivation? How much do you give a shit? I don't know the answer to that, but if he's going to try and care, if we're assuming we're getting the best from Lax, I think I favor him over Xcal and Black White, even though Xcal is solid there. I think Lax is even better. So to me, the X factor here is going to be the ADV, and that's where I just don't know what I don't know. I don't know that either player plays it other than recreationally outside of Classic. I don't know that I consider either of these guys proper ADV guys. So I really don't know. But my prediction here is going to be whoever wins the ADV wins the set. I don't feel super comfortable or confident one way or another with this one. But again, if we're playing the game that I must make a prediction, I guess I will take Lax. But this is similar to the TDK and male pairing where I don't feel super confident either way. Your prediction?
Oh, is that what's expected of me? I think I said Excal. I think I already did.
I might have missed that. All
Well,
right.
pay more attention when I speak, Callus.
I'm doing a lot of things here. Give me a break. XCal wins, says Jabba. I'm going to go with Lax. So Jabba and I have disagreed a number of times, so that makes for fun content. We're going to see who ends up being right. All right, there's only 6 people left here, so let me cross out XCal and Lax. Only 6 people left here. We've got number 5, which is Void, my SPL co-manager last year. Thanks for picking me, bro. Versus number 4, Void versus Tamahome. That's a pairing.
Oh boy, I don't think anyone ever wants to pull Tama home in this thing. I was actually looking; there were a couple interesting matches that uh, could have pulled Tama home, and I think would have been really fun to talk about. This one, Void is another player that I don't know as much about. I know he's good. I know he exists. I know he's a pretty good player. And Tamahome, I think, speaks for himself. I think I don't need to sit here and talk about how he's crushed just about everything he's played over the past several years. 3, 4, 5, he's obviously great. 3, he's one of the best. I'm not sure how 4. I know that he's also really really good. I don't know his 5 skills. I've never really seen him kind of venture out of the 3, 4 realm. I know that Void has to bring probably his best anti Jirachi, uh, that team that he's packing, because we all know that Tamahone loves to fish for those flinches, and it works for him most of the time. So obviously anyone, this Tamahone's probably someone you put near the top 3. I think you'd be hard pressed to take anyone over him right now. He's playing the best he's ever played, and he's been playing at that level for a few years now. So got to give the edge to him.
All right, so first and foremost, plainly, Tama has the edge, period. Here is the path to victory for Void. He's going to get demolished in the ADV. He has very little chance. He needs to win the other 2. Void, in his day, which at this point is a few years removed, was one of the top DPP players. It's his best gen. Tama also was considered a top DPP player for a long time. Probably still could be if he wanted to. I don't know outside of Classic how much he's played it recently. I think that Void at his peak in his prime is just as good as or very comparable with Tama in DPP specifically. So he absolutely needs to win that match. He needs to win DPP and Black White because the ADV is basically a gimme. Void does play a lot of Black White. Of the 3, I think Black White is Tama's weakest here. So I think Void has a shot there as well. It's very hard not to think that Tama just has the edge here. He clearly does. And like I said, I think the ADV, there's a big gap here. But basically, I mean, this is a DPP starting pairing. If Void can take game one in DPP, especially if he could do it convincingly, just really lay the smackdown on Tama, he's got a shot. If Tama loses game one, you know he's going to pick ADV for game two, and then we're going to go to the game three black white. So this could easily go to three. Void does play a good amount of black white, and like I said, I think that's Tama's weakest tier. So Void just needs to know where he's good and where he's not good here. I think if I'm Void, my strategy would be to use some matchup based gimmick bullshit and ADV and just try to get there and then try to win DPP and black white the old fashioned way. It's going to be a tall task. I think Tama's got the edge. But for the sake of talking about the match, that's what I think Void needs to do. And I do think Void beating Tama in DPP is not the wildest thing in the world.
No, definitely not.
All right, that leaves us with only four people and therefore only two pairings. Obviously, by revealing one, we're going to reveal the other, but we're going to talk about them one at a time. So the second to last pairing, starting with DPP, is Cyber Odin versus Malekith.
Uh, I was I was pulling for Cyber in August so we could see some great DPP clashes. So anyway, we got Cyber and Malekith. Cyber, as I mentioned earlier, just absolutely sweep me in that one tournament. I think he's very good at DPP. From my impressions of playing him, I don't know what outsider perspective is, watching the matches and his recent performances, but playing him, I think he's really really good in DPP. Not sure how he is in 3 or 5. Malekith, obviously, I know someone that's pretty good across the board. So it's going to be really dependent on how good Cybroden is in 3 or 5. If he's at a similar level to Malekith. Malekith obviously being the other late addition to the tournament because of the circumstances, and another name that people were clamoring for. He's been a SPL staple. He's been an everything staple. He's a really good player. And I think Cyber Odin, from my perspective, is one of the better, kind of offensive DPP players in the game.
um, ugh. I really like Odin. Really nice guy, devout religious man. Odin's awesome. I don't overly believe in Odin overall as a player. I believe in his
Ouch.
ceiling, and I believe in his big game mentality. He's a lot like Marco P. He's someone who could just randomly go in, rise to the occasion, and beat anybody. But he's also like Marco P in that he lacks a consistency and that he also takes bad losses against mediocre players. Um, yeah, I got to go Malekith here. Just Malekith to me is just a far more consistent player. Odin in every tier. I don't want to use the word gimmicky. That might be too strong. But Odin in every tier uses very specific kinds of teams that are kind of cheesy, kind of matchup fishy, kind of exploitable, especially in ADV, which is the tier that I'm most knowledgeable about. Odin just runs the same kind of thing over and over and over. He runs fucking Cloister, T-Tar, Gengar, Swampert every single time, and he runs Mix Zapdos almost every time too. He
I
runs
don't see a problem with that.
he runs the Drill Peck, HP Fight, Zapdos. Like he just
That's such a good set. Why are you shitting on that set?
No, I'm not. It's just like Odin isn't versatile. He runs the same shit every time, and it is what it is. I mean, he did well in SPL last year. I don't buy into his consistency. Odin, I think, is more of a one-trick pony across every tier who just plays what he thinks and refuses to change it. And if any opponent actually preps and actually gives a shit, I think they could take advantage of it. He's talented, but I gotta go Malekith here. I don't know that Odin is blatantly better than Malekith in any of these tiers. I would say Odin's biggest advantage here is probably in the DPP, where I perceive Malekith to be not as good as he is in the other tiers, but I might be incorrect on that. They're both, again, these are well-rounded guys that don't have like a blatant I'm amazing at this and I kind of sort of play the other two, but I'm a Malekith believer, even though he's a bit crusty these days and he's an old man. I'm not so much of an Odin believer. Gonna go with Malekith.
I'm gonna go against you. I'm gonna say Cyber Odin's gimmicks are gonna work.
There you go. I mean, Jeff and I have disagreed all day, and it makes for good content. We're going to see at the end how we both did with these. And finally, the last pairing, August against Wellu.
This is interesting. I'm surprised August is shaking off the dust for this one. Obviously, me and August have a absolutely huge history on Smogon. He was on he defected at some point from Metro to East, but he was a Metro player. We played more matches than I could probably count back in the day. DPP. At the time, back in the day, we were probably considered two of the better players. Had great matches. He's really fun to play against. Great guy. Um, I'm not sure what he's done recently. I know when I originally brought it up, I was just joking. I think he was around for like 3 and 5. Can he do 3 and 5? I was probably told that he's pretty good at both. Back in the day, he never really touched three, from what I could recall, and 5. I felt like he dipped before 5 was a thing, but I could be wrong in my timing. Boomer brain kind of takes its toll on you, so you can't really pinpoint when things happen. Um, but he's been back a little bit. He played a little bit, not a ton from what I can tell, but back in the day, one of the best DP players in the game. I'm not sure what kind of performance he's going to show up for in the other two. IU is obviously a pretty good, well-rounded player, um, pretty solid across the board. Not obviously, if August is thinking about putting his head to the grindstone and kind of trying his hardest in this. This isn't like getting soul wind in round one, in that kind of situation. So we'll see. I'll give the edge to August just because history. You gotta go with the guy you're buddies with. But anyway, maybe you've seen August in action recently more than I have. So maybe you can shine a little bit more light than I was able to.
As much as I want to.
Your mic cut off for me, bro. This is now the job of the Griffin Power Hour. Everyone, crack your bottles. Now the job of the Griffin Power Hour. Everyone, crack your bottles. Now the job of the Griffin Power Hour. Everyone, crack. Oh, I'm like on a repeat too. Pretty funny. Everyone, oh, I'm like on a repeat too. Pretty funny. Everyone, oh, I'm like on a repeat too. Pretty funny. Everyone, oh, I'm like on a repeat too. Pretty funny. Everyone, oh, I'm like on a repeat too. Pretty funny. Everyone,
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
Uh, I'm gonna think I don't know. I died. I probably cut out for all of that. I'm not gonna say my whole thing again. I predict.
Okay.
I predicted August. I have a major question mark about Wellu in Gen 3 and Gen 4. It's very hard for me to envision Wellu beating August in Gen 4, and I respect Wellu a lot in 6, 7, 8, and in Gen 2, but I think this format doesn't favor him, and I'm going to give the edge to August, is what I meant to say. Don't know why I died there. My headset sucks recently, and I'm going to buy a new one, but that's what I meant to say. Anyhow, anything you'd like to add, Jabba?
No, just excited to get crushed, and then afterwards, after I go 0-2, presumably, join into the narration team.
Perfect. Jabba will do some narrating after he's out of this in the first 2 rounds. Sounds good, right?
Yeah.
All right, guys, thanks for watching. Thank you for supporting Permasand Invitational. We are still taking donations. We could absolutely use a few more. If you want to do that, 100% of your donation goes to supporting the players. ABR and I don't keep any of it. It all goes into the prize pool. So please do consider donating to Permasand Invitational. Please do join our Discord channel. There'll be a link in the description. And look forward to enjoying all these matches as we all will. Thanks for joining me today, and I will see you guys next time.
Godspeed.